for those that don't know, obviously, Michael, you came out, you started doing a lot of what you did with like Kiss and everybody else when the internet was in its infancy, right? And
oh yeah,
and I started doing promotion for these guys here when the internet was in its infancy. And I think where a lot of PR people, they run into this like rut where they are still promoting things the way it was being done 25 years ago. I see that a lot. I've seen a lot of the same people who have been around for a long time doing the exact same thing they were doing 25 years ago. But instead of obviously physical press kits that used to go out back in the day, you now have electronic press kits. So now a lot of these people are getting paid X amount of dollars to just email blast people, and that's it. And they really don't do anything out of the box. They have a generic press release in many cases. You'll have a Holics link, pretty much all cases, mostly, unless they use Promo Jukebox. Some people use that. But you also have a lot of these folks approaching everything as if it's the radio days. And it's not like that. I came from the radio days. It's a completely different thing. So now people are not getting creative with what they are doing. They're not getting creative with their emails. They're sending out the same generic email 90% of everybody else does. So there's nothing in the email to draw you in. And meanwhile, the emails used to be maybe 50 emails a month 25, 26 years ago, 27 years ago, to like 5,000 emails a month, and everybody looks the same. So that has always been my biggest issue, because what happens is now a lot of these PR people that did really well back in the old days, what would happen is now they're kind of living off of that. You know, you ever see like a band that, there are bands out there that really don't put out great albums, but they kind of live off their legacy. Well, I would say that applies to a lot of PR people that did a great job back in the day. They have a reputation, but they are not doing the job they used to do because they have not changed the way they are doing things. So things that are different that you do, for example, would be putting reviews. Every band that gets a review that's positive, it goes into email. The bands put that positive review on social media, which pretty much gets that stuff going in the algorithms. And when you have multiple reviews, or, you know, let's say a radio station plays something, you know, whether that podcast or radio person, whatever, has a 1 follower or like 2 million, you know, when I start seeing that kind of stuff and I start seeing people giving things like 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, I'm like, okay, I look at that email and I immediately see that it's different from the other ones that I'm getting. I put it in its own folder, and then I start looking at these bands that get reviews, and then I go check the band out. Now, I might like it, I might not like it, but that email and that I'm getting basically will stand out, and I will check that out first before I check out the other 999 emails that I'm getting. And I think that's where you approach things differently, because, and I've noticed too, I've seen bands just posting positive reviews who have no PR that are doing better than some PR people do for their clients, right? And they're not paying anybody. So I think that's one of the things that you guys do differently than most people.
You know, I think, and I'm just speaking for myself, I've always approached anything I do in the music industry with the eyes of a fan. I am a fan. I've always been a fan. I admit I am not a musician. I have never been in a band. I can't play anything but the air guitar. I've never written a song, but I am a fan. From the day I was discovered music, I've been buying albums. Well, let's see. I remember buying a couple 8-tracks, then I got into vinyl, and then cassettes, and then CDs. I mean, I bought more t-shirts than I can frickin' count and remember. I've joined fan clubs. I've gone to events. You know, I mean, my room is filled with memorabilia that much of it I have purchased because I'm a fan.
Yep.
And so I look at everything that I do through the eyes of a fan, because more than ever today in the music industry, it's all about the fans. If you don't have fans or have a connection to the fans, if you don't understand your fans, you've got nothing.
It's like
nothing.
the old Gene Simmons quote, "We are nothing without the fans."
Well, yeah. I mean, it's funny you bring that up. I mean, back in the day, that was just a great marketing line, but now it's actually 100% true. Because think about this. I mean, how many artists go from label to label to label with their albums? What will hopefully go with them from label to label to label is your fan base that's following you, the artist. You can go to the next label and go, oh, don't worry. I've got 50,000 fans on my email list that I can email when this album comes out. And then maybe by the next album, you've got 10,000 more fans or whatever.
Sure.
So you have to look at everything as a fan. And that's what I've always done is looked at marketing, any aspect of marketing as how does this look to the fan? Does this make a fan go, oh, this is cool, this is interesting? And I've always thought reviews were that way. In the old days, pre-internet days, early internet days, it was just reviews from name publications. Because everybody was like, oh, that must mean a lot that Rolling Stone said this, or Kerrang said this, or Metal Hammer said this. And there's still nothing wrong with name reviews. But one of the things I realized over the last decade or so is fan reviews are even more valuable than those reviews. Because the three of us and anybody watching or listening, I would venture to say, we get our music recommendations from other fans more than anything else. Who do you
absolutely
trust?
Right.
Whose opinion do you trust more? The reviewer at a media outlet that you don't know, or your buddy that you've been going to concerts to for 10 years and they say, Giles, I just discovered this new band. And whether it's on YouTube or Spotify or whatever, you got to check it out. You're going to trust your buddy in a heartbeat. So I've gotten to the point now where, especially like with Wasp, when, it's a fan that posts this great review. I went to the show at this festival or this venue, and it blew me away. I'm actually giving that fan's review the same spotlight attention I would give if some big media outlet wrote a great review. Why? Because again, the fans recognize another fan, and the fans are going to trust fans before they trust a media outlet. And I'm not saying this happens, but in this world we live in now, everybody is so cynical of, did you pay for that review?
Right.
Did that person just write that because you flew them to the concert, or did they really like that?
Yep.
When a fan opens up their wallet and spends $75 to buy a ticket to go to a theater to see a show, and then they write, that was the best money I ever invested, and that was the best show I've ever seen, that's coming from the heart.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I if I could add that a lot of, let's just, we're using the words other labels a lot, but other labels will have their set PR people that do things a very specific set, cookie cutter way. Even if it doesn't get results, they will just hit that wall and go, well, we tried, we did our usual thing and it didn't work, and I guess this is a dead release. I personally, and I don't know if Michael will love or hate this analogy, but to me, Michael Brandvold is the MacGyver of PR, in the sense that he will find a way. He's not the guy that's just going to go, well, we can't get over that wall, there's no rope. He'll build a freaking catapult if he has to. We'll find another way to get the word out.
Yeah.
So many labels and the PR people they work with have this is our method. It worked for band X. We're going to do it for... Michael will cater a PR campaign to the artist, whether it's a tiny little baby band, whether it's a great big massive band, or a band that used to be a big one that is now, finding their feet again and getting, and rebuilding, starting again,
Sure.
or any combination of those. There's always a way, and there's nothing that's sort of off the table. And that's why Michael is perfect for Bravewords Records, because that is our MO as well. It's like, let's do what we can and let's cater this to the artist rather than just this, get the calculator out, 1 + 1 = 2 kind of, method to everything, cookie cutter approach.
Rather than here's the marketing plan we used on our last artist. Let me just do a search and replace on artist name, and here's your marketing plan. No,
exactly. Here's your marketing plan.
I appreciate that, Giles, because my attitude, failure is not something I worry about, because we all are going to fail. It's just a given. It's like, keep throwing shit against the wall. Can I swear?
I don't care.
You want me to swear? So keep throwing shit against the wall until something sticks. You don't know what's going to stick, and it's going to be different for every single artist and every single release by those artists as well.
Yeah.
Like in the world of baseball, you are a superstar by hitting 3 out of 10 pitches. Think about that.
Yep.
Only 3 out of 10, and you are considered a great athlete.
Exactly.
So,
and you never know.
Pitches. Yeah. You never know what's going to work.
Who would have thought that Coldplay was going to be the most talked about band of the weekend? We didn't know that. Anything can come out of nowhere. Bobby from Pentagram is now a meme. Whoever thought that would happen? So it's fertile ground for anyone and anything, but you got to give us something to work with. So if bands,
you got to give us something to work, and you can't be afraid to try it. I think a lot of what we still deal with is people are just like, well, what if it doesn't work? Is it going to look bad?
Yeah.
If it's, I don't care, because here's what the reality is. At the end of the day, in this world, failures are not remembered.
No.
Unless you keep talking about your failure. I grew up a diehard Kiss fan, so I've used this analogy in presentations I've given to radio conventions and marketing conventions. I'm like, I remember I gave the keynote address at a web convention in Oslo over a decade ago, and I brought up Music from the Elder in this convention. God knows nobody in that audience knew what it was, but the analogy was, listen, Kiss is not afraid of failures. Their biggest failure was this album called Music from the Elder. It nearly killed their career.
I actually like that record, just so you know.
I got no problems with it either, but I'm like, but they kept moving forward, and now nobody fucking remembers that. I mean, you got the diehards that debate good and bad, and who cares about that? Your diehard fans are the converted. Don't worry about them. Just don't do something to piss them off to make them hate you.
Yeah.
But you don't have to convince them of anything. They're in your corner. But I'm like, nobody remembers the Music from the Elder in the general scheme of in the music world. They remember Destroyer, Kiss Alive 2. They remember the reunion tour. They remember the successes, because the successes are huge. They're something to be proud of, and that's what you keep talking about. So you don't sit there and go, well, why should I do this? What if it doesn't work? Well, if it doesn't work, then nothing happens. Then what's that analogy? What happens when there's no marketing or whatever? It's like nothing happens. That's exactly it. If you don't try marketing, nothing's going to happen. That's a guarantee. If you don't try, you will be in the exact same spot you are today with nothing happening.
Right.
And you throw stuff against the wall, you don't know what's going to work. Here, I'll give you an example from Bravewords Records. There's tons of internet radio stations out there. I love them all. they're all great supporters of music.
Mhm.
Some of them have 5 listeners and some of them have 50,000 listeners. I don't care. You're all valuable and all important. So I got to know a guy who did an internet radio station, Metal Shop 101. I just threw out this idea. I'm like, would you like to do a radio show on Bravewords Records? He's like,
Uh-huh.
well, what do you mean? Tell me about this. I'm like, it's a 1-hour radio show. I'll give you some commercials. I'll get the band members to cut some IDs for the show. You can do some interviews with the artist. I'll get you all the music, and you just put together a show that you want. I'll provide you the assets. I'm not going to give you direction on yes, no, or otherwise. This is your show to put together. I'm not asking for approval of the final product. He's like, yeah, let me try that. I had no idea how this was going to work, if anybody would care. And then I told him, I go, well, okay, this sounds great. You take your own radio show and distribute it out, syndicate it out to all sorts of other internet radio stations. I go, why don't you reach out to those people who already carry your show and ask them if they want to carry this Bravewords special? It's like, sure, I don't know if anybody will be interested. Ask. We did it. And we did it about a month ago. And I think he was able to acquire maybe about a dozen or so internet radio stations that said, yeah, I'll carry it. I had no idea if anybody was going to listen. And like the first day, he was like, yeah, this one station, 50,000 people tuned in. I'm like, what? To the point where that radio special came out at the same time we had a radio promotion company working Jack Starr's single Rise Up to hard rock and metal radio. He reported back to me, the radio promoter, I'm seeing increased spins because of your radio show across the board. I'm like, well, this, I guess, worked. Radio stations loved it. It was great PR for all of our artists. And I'm on talks with them now. It's like, let's do a second episode now. How many people do that? How many people would put the work in, the time in to make that happen, to organize it? It's not in any playbook of here's what's guaranteed to work. And no, it's just like, I look at stuff and go, why couldn't we do that? Why doesn't that work for us? Why, we've got a great relationship with Charlie Kendall, who does the Metal Shop radio show, syndicated radio show. And I said, Charlie, any reason why we couldn't carry Metal Shop on Bravewords and post it on YouTube? He's like, no, go for it. And he's like, by the way, if you want me to run some Bravewords Records ads for you, I'll do that. Giles does the voiceover work, and now all of a sudden we've got Bravewords Records ads. And literally just today, it dropped today as we're recording this on Saturday, the 19th, Metal Shop premiered the new single from Bangor Choir's upcoming album. And I'm like, it's relationships, it's asking. It may work, it may not work. I'm looking at the YouTube plays on Bravewords right now for the new episode. It's already gotten more plays in the last 4 hours than some of the previous episodes have gotten in weeks. So it's like, okay, this works. This is getting some attention out here.
Yeah.
Back to what you're saying, Tony. It's like, you got to try different things. You can't take that same playbook. What worked in the 80s definitely isn't working today. And what worked in the early days of the internet isn't even going to be the same today.
No.
And here's the final thing I'll say about all that. You got to take your cues not just from the music industry. Be a fan of movies, books, TV shows. How's that new TV show that you like being marketed on Netflix? Is there something you go, well, I don't have Netflix budget, but I could put together an interesting hack and do the same thing with this new album? Okay, great. Give it a shot. It doesn't have to be just taking cues, stealing ideas from another band, another label, another publicist, whatever. It's like, go completely outside of this industry
Mhm.
and see what's happening in the mainstream world, what's happening in pop culture, that you can sit here and go, I could MacGyver that. I could MacGyver what's going on in that movie's promotion and make that work for an album promotion.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's kind of like, you're not going to hit the target if you don't shoot the bullet, right?
Guaranteed.
And you're guaranteed not to hit it unless you do it. Hey, everybody. Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching. And if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video. And if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.